Please remain standing for the posting of the colors. The colors will be posted by an all-female Air Force Junior ROTC color guard from Westminster High School. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Owen McWhorter, Abby McWhorter, my niece and nephew, and Lila Ferrandino.
Will you please join us in saying the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hold on. National anthem. Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem.
For the ramparts we When all the world is a hopeless jumble, and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens a magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane to a place behind the sun, just a step beyond the rain.
Representative Schaefer. One more? Oh, okay, one more.
Just start talking.
Representative Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask the members of the LGBT caucus to join me in the well, please. And I understand there are some senators from the LGBT caucus, Senator Stedman, Senator Guzman, and Senator Ulibarri, that have joined us. Members, we have been royally inspired and entertained this morning by the Denver Gay Men's Chorus. Would you please give them another big hand?
Representative Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're so proud of you, the first gay Speaker of the Colorado House of Representatives, and we are so honored to serve with you, all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you, members.
Representative Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm just offended they made the youngest one carry the balloon. But happy retirement.
Thanks. Representative Rosenthal.
Mr. Speaker, it was an honor and a pleasure to serve with you, and life's a parade, march on.
Thank you. Representative Janal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your leadership, and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Representative Peniston for introductions of our color guard. And yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It has indeed been a pleasure to serve with you all these years. I would like to introduce the color guard that presented the colors this morning from Westminster High School, led by Cadet Olivia Gonzalez, Cadet Nellie Beza, Cadet Victoria Smith, and Cadet Yaneli Aguirre. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that they were a fine and wonderful representation of our high school kids here in Colorado. And along with them, I would like to introduce the grandmother of Cadet Olivia Gonzalez, who is the Honorable Ann Ragsdale, my predecessor, and just a minute, we'll clap all at once, and Cadet Olivia Gonzalez's aunt, the Honorable Fran Groff, who served, so I think it might be I'm sorry, Joanne Groff, sorry. Her mother is Fran. So they might be the only mother and daughter that have ever served in the House of Representatives, I believe. So let's congratulate all of these folks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, you know, these kinds of this kind of wonderful presentation doesn't happen just out of the blue. It takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of leadership. And so I would also this morning like to recognize Lieutenant Colonel Clarence Jones. Lieutenant Colonel Clarence Jones is retiring from Adams County School District 50 after more than 13 years teaching the Colorado 062 Air Force Junior ROTC. Under his command, the Colorado 062 Nighthawks have earned numerous prestigious awards and become a model for junior ROTC programs across the state. Lieutenant Colonel Jones instilled in his students the same integrity, depth of character, and excellence that he attained during his 24 years of experience in the Air Force. His development and mentorship of our young people will be greatly missed. The members of the Colorado House of Representatives are proud to recognize Lieutenant Colonel Clarence Jones for all his accomplishments, thank him for his dedication to Colorado students, and wish him the best in his future endeavors. On request of Representative Sherilyn Peniston and signed by Speaker of the House, Mark Ferrandino, on this day. And we have an American flag that has flown over the Capitol to give to Lieutenant Colonel Clarence Jones. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Peniston, and thank you to the color guard. Mr. Kohler, take the roll. For the last time for many of us.
Representatives Becker, Buck,
Hey, guys.
Buckner, Conti, Coram, Court, Del Grosso, Dorr, Duran, Everett, Exum, Fields, Fisher, Foot. Garcia. Thank you. Gardner. Giroux. I'm going to miss you too. Janal. Hamner. Holbert.
Okay, guys, thank you.
Hollinghorst.
Are they here?
Humphrey. Joshi.
Well, if you can.
Kagan. Krafttharp. Labuda. Miss you. Landgraf. Lawrence. Lebsock. Lee. May. McCann. McLaughlin. McNulty. Melton. Mitch Bush. Moreno. Murray. Navarro. Nordberg. Babone. Beniston. Pedersen. Primavera. Priola. Rankin. Rosenthal. Ryden. Sane. Salazar. I think that means present. Schaefer. Scott. Singer.
Okay, how quick
is running away.
What? Excused.
Yeah, I know. Singer excused. Sonnenberg. Stevens. Swam. Zabo. Tyler. Vigil. Waller. Williams. Wilson. Wright. Representative Wright. I know. I want to give him. That's all right. Young. Speaker Ferrandino.
Absent. Who? You didn't get me to sign. I'm here, by the way, Corey.
Speaker Ferrandino.
Here. Okay. With 64 members present, 1 stuck in traffic and excused. A quorum is present. Representative Everett for the last time this year.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Oh, my Colorado tartan. Guess what the language I'm going to try to speak? I think it's Scottish. Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the journal of May 6th, 2014 be dispensed with, that it be approved and corrected by the chief clerk. Freedom!
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? If we didn't have a resolution to do with guests here, I would make Representative Everett read the journal, just to prolong it. But, in respect to the members who are here for a resolution, we are going to do that in a little bit. So, the motion is passed. Announcements and introductions. Representative Peniston.
Thank you one more time, Mr. Speaker. And colleagues, everybody has the support in their lives that it takes to get through all of this. And I've had many, but my rock and my partner in life, please help me welcome my husband, W.J. Peniston.
Members, please join me in welcoming the 8th graders from Maury Middle School. I think they're up here. Yep, there they are. Please join me in welcoming them. Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. I know you thought we were done, but lo and behold, we do have a piece of unfinished business, and contrary to the wonderful song we heard earlier, this little bit of business has to get done. So we will be meeting whenever the Speaker recesses us at some point in the morning or afternoon, and I have yet to discover whether we will be in LSBA or not. So I will let you know that. See you all soon.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to talk about a tribute to a group called Liberty Aloud. Members may not know, but this is the 60th anniversary of including Under God in the Pledge of Allegiance. And so I just wanted to say just a couple things. The pledge was actually promoted by James B. Upham to instill into the minds of our American youth a love for their country and the principles upon which it was founded, and creating them an ambition to carry on with the ideals that the early founders wrote into the Constitution. And in February 10th, 1954, a bill was introduced by Senator Ferguson in Congress, and that vote was unanimous to add Under God in the pledge. And this is an important anniversary to commemorate because it does give us binding ties to our history and our Christian heritage. So with that, I'm going to offer to distribute up to Liberty Aloud, and thank you, members, and this is our 60th anniversary. Ooh.
Thank you, Representative Sane. Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also have a tribute to the Colorado Dental Association. In 1985, Dental Lifeline Network and the Colorado Dental Association established the Donated Dental Services Program, which later expanded and is now operating nationally in all 50 states. In Colorado alone, this program has donated over $25 million in donated dental care to our most medically fragile. 120,000 people who are fragile, elderly, and people with developmental disabilities have benefited from their great volunteer work, and they've donated over $250 million nationally of their services to help people most in need. So I just wanted you to join me in a tribute to the Colorado Dental Association and thank them for the great work.
Thank you, Representative Primavera. Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I have kind of a special announcement to make. Could the gentleman from the House Republican Appropriations Committee join me in the well? I think we've lost Bob. I'm not sure where Bob went. He'll show up. There's a bit of a tradition, you know, when we're in our committees that the vice chair organizes the gift for the chair of the committees of reference that we sit on. And I think it was 4 years ago, Speaker, then Representative Ferrandino, stole that privilege from my my committee vice chair and presented me with a really beautiful orchid. And then last year, I stole that privilege from Representative Duran and presented Claire with former Representative Levy with a really beautiful orchid, if I do say so myself. Anyway, by the way, Mr. Speaker, my orchid just dropped its last bloom this morning. It blooms twice a year, and it will live for a really, really long time. So with that, could we have Representative Duran join us in the well? I know. And it's nothing you can stick, okay? However, gentlemen, we'd like to present you with an orchid. We made your life miserable, but you did a great job, and we love you.
Thank you very much.
Further announcements or introductions? Seeing none, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House proceed out of order to consider SJR 25.
Seeing no objection, the House will proceed out of order for consideration of SJR 25. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of the Senate Joint Resolution 25.
SJR 25 by Senator Hodge, also Representative Priola, concerning the designation of the pedestrian overpass across United States Highway 85 at Southern Street in Brighton as the Aretha Hamilton Overpass.
Representative Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move SJR 25 and ask that it be read at length.
Whereas Aretha Hamilton, a resident of the Crown Home area in Brighton, Colorado, who served on the Brighton Parks and Recreation Board for many years, began advocating for a pedestrian overpass to be built over United States Highway 85 after a young child was killed crossing the highway. And whereas many of the children in the area attend either South Elementary School or North Elementary School, both of which are mere blocks from the highway, which had no safe pedestrian crossing until the overpass was built. And whereas Mrs. Hamilton worked diligently against many odds to ensure that the pedestrian overpass would be completed. And whereas today many people use the pedestrian overpass to safely cross United States Highway 85, and many bikers and joggers use the overpass to safely access the Platte River Trail. And whereas in the fall of 2013, the City of Brighton received a naming petition requesting that the pedestrian overpass across United States Highway 85 at Southern Street be named the Aretha Hamilton Overpass. And whereas on September 17, 2013, the City of Brighton City Council approved a resolution to name the overpass the Aretha Hamilton Overpass. And whereas Mrs. Hamilton was instrumental in working with the state of Colorado to have the pedestrian overpass constructed. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the 69th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that the pedestrian overpass across United States Highway 85 at Southern Street in Brighton, Colorado, be renamed the Aretha Hamilton Overpass, that the Colorado Department of Transportation may accept and expend gifts, grants, and donations for the purpose of the initial placement of the signs to mark the pedestrian overpass across United States Highway 85 at Southern Street in Brighton, Colorado as the Aretha Hamilton Overpass, and that the Colorado Department of Transportation may explore a cooperative agreement with City of Brighton City Council for the maintenance of the markings for the Aretha Hamilton Overpass. Be it further resolved that copies of this joint resolution be sent to Aretha Hamilton, the Mayor of Brighton, Dick McLean, the City Council of Brighton, the Colorado Transportation Commission, and the Executive Director of the Department of Transportation.
Representative Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, please feel free to sit down. Growing up in Brighton, there are many trips to and fro that I would drive underneath this bridge or be driven by my parents. And I always kind of wondered just what the genesis of it was. Come to find out through this resolution and talking to folks from Brighton that have been around much longer than I have, that there is a story behind it. A child was killed in the early 80s going from the neighborhood on the west side of Highway 85 to the east side of Highway 85 where the schools are. And as coincidence is it, and what a small world it is, my wife actually lived in that neighborhood about that time. So I think it is very fitting that we honor with naming in perpetuity this bridge, the Aretha Hamilton Bridge, so that children in the future will understand how it simply takes the power and effort of one person to make a difference in their community and in the lives of many children. With that, I would simply ask for an aye vote on SJR 25.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to taking a voice vote? Seeing none, we'll proceed in that matter. All those in favor of Senate Joint Resolution 25 say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Senate Joint Resolution 25 is adopted. Representative Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask that the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Seeing no objection, the current roll call made the co-sponsors of Senate Joint Resolution 25. Representative Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, if I could introduce the former mayor of Brighton, Jan Pulowski, over here, as well as Gary Wardle from Brighton Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Representative Priola. We will proceed to our next order of business, third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 199.
Senate Bill 199 by Senator Grantham, also Representative Becker, concerning amendments to the charter of the town of Georgetown in connection with adding new provisions, modifying existing provisions, and deleting obsolete provisions in the charter.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 199 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 199 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives Humphrey, Lebsock, Lee, McCann, Moreno, and that would be it. Close the machine with 63 aye votes, 2 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate Bill 199 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 205.
Senate Bill 205 by Senator Newell, also Representative Young, concerning the Talent Pipeline Working Group with the State Workforce Development Council and the Department of Labor and Employment.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 205 in third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 205 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Close the machine with 39 aye votes, 26 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate Bill 205 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 193.
Senate Bill 193 by Senators Carroll and Lundberg, also Representative Singer, concerning conforming Colorado law on location information with the Fourth Amendment as interpreted by the United States Supreme Court in United States v. Jones.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 193 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 193 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, Senate Bill 193 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 208.
Senate Bill 208 by Senator Jones, also Representative Fields, concerning the reinstatement of the authority for a veteran who has not been dishonorably discharged to practice professionally.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 208 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 208 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives Pabon, close the machine. With 62 aye votes, 3 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, Senate Bill 208 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 202.
Senate Bill 202 by Senator Kerr, also Representative Tyler, concerning modifications to the requirements applicable to the School Energy Loan Program.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 202 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 202 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 40 aye votes, 25 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, Senate Bill 202 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 217.
Senate Bill 217 by Senators Carroll and Cabot, also Representatives Hollinghorst and Del Grosso, concerning methods to promote transparency in connection with public disclosure by lobbyists and in connection with making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader. Sorry, Mr. Minority Leader. I was looking. I was looking down doing something else.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Senate Bill 217 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 217 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Priola and Stevens. Close the machine with 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate Bill 217 is passed. Go sponsors. The problem, Representative McNulty, is I was writing your name down. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 215.
Senate Bill 215 by Senator Stedman, also Representatives Durand and Giroux, concerning the disposition of monies collected by the state in connection with the legal marijuana industry and in connection with making appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 215 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 215 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Buck. Close the machine with 61 aye votes, 4 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate Bill 215 is passed. Co-sponsors. Can you see if Del Grosso is fine with that? Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 223.
Senate Bill 223 by Senators Nicholson and Cabot, also Representatives Giroux and Young, concerning the payment of by the state of legal claims arising in connection with the Lower North Fork wildfire and in connection with making and reducing appropriations.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Senate Bill 223 on third reading, final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 223 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives, it's your bill, I'll let you. Let's close the machine with 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate Bill 223 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 213.
Senate Bill 213 by Senator Johnson, also Representatives Conti and Fields, concerning increasing the statute's limitations for commencing proceedings against a person who, after committing a vehicular homicide, leaves the scene of the accident in connection with, requiring a post-enactment review of the implementation of this act.
Representative Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 213 and ask for on third reading and final passage and ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 213 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Lee and Schaefer. Close the machine with 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate Bill 213 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 172.
Senate Bill 172 by Senators Talktrop and Newell, also Representative Kraft-Tharp, concerning employer-paid benefits to a firefighter for cardiac illnesses resulting from a strenuous work event in connection with making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 172 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 172 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Gardner and Gardner. Close the machine with 40 aye votes, 39 aye votes, 26 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate Bill 172 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 214.
Senate Bill 214 by Senators Lambert and Stedman, also Representatives Giroux and May, concerning the studies requested in the Department of Personnel's response to the request for information in the fiscal year 2013-14 Annual General Appropriation Act in connection with making appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 214 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 214 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Fisher. Close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, Senate Bill 214 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of the House Bill 211.
House Bill 211 by Senators Johnston and Ballmer, also Representatives Hollinghorst and Waller, concerning an Alzheimer's disease center in connection with making appropriation.
Representative Waller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Senate Bill 14211 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 211 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives McNulty and Stevens. Close the machine. With 62 aye votes, 3 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, Senate Bill 211 is passed. Co-sponsors.
This is my last bill.
Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 222.
Senate Bill 222 by Senator Aguilar, also Representative Giroux, concerning the duration of a license to use a registration number when auctioned to raise money for the Disability Benefit Support Fund.
This
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is my last bill. I move, what are we? Senate Bill 222 on third reading, final passage. Ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 222 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 64 aye votes, 1 no vote, 0 excused, and 0 absent, Senate Bill 222 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to our last third reading bill, Senate Bill 195.
Senate Bill 195 by Senators Nicholson and Renfro, also Representatives Singer and Sonnenberg, concerning a study of phreatophyte growth along the South Platte River in the aftermath of the September 2013 flood.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 195 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question before the House is the passage of Senate Bill 195 on third reading and final passage. Members, please give Representative Sonnenberg a good send-off to the Senate as appropriate. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Lebsack. Has everyone voted the way they want to vote? Close the machine. Your last vote on third reading, Representative Gardner, with 64 aye votes, 1 no vote, 0 excused, and 0 absent, Senate Bill 195 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Representative Gardner, do you want to come and get your name removed as a co-sponsor? No. Representative Becker.
It's not a big fight. It's not a partisan fight. It's a phreatophyte.
Representative Becker is fined $2 for a really bad joke. Hold the House is going to stand in brief recess. I think we might have some stuff we need to do. Hold on one sec. The House will come back to order. Conference committee reports.
First report on First Conference Committee on House Bill 1180. This report amends the re-engrossed bill.
Signing of bills, resolutions, and memorials.
Speaker has signed Senate Bills 8, 15, 36.
The remainder of the report will be printed in the journal. Message from the body that shall not be named.
Mr. Speaker, the body that shall not be named.
The remainder of the message from the body that shall be named will be printed in the journal. We are going to move to our next order of business, consideration of conference committee reports, starting with Senate Bill 88. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 88.
Senate Bill 88 by Senator Newell, also Representative Kraft-Tharp, concerning the creation of the Suicide Prevention Commission in connection with making and reducing appropriations.
Representative Kraft-Tharp.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House adopt the first report of the first conference committee on Senate Bill 88.
Please tell us what the conference committee did, Representative Kraft-Tharp.
So we basically made some little changes to the composition of the committee. I ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before the House is the adoption of the first report of the first conference committee in Senate Bill 88. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Buckner, Pedersen, and Del Grosso.
All my members voted.
Representative Buckner. Representative Buckner excused and fined $5. Hold on, Representative Buckner. You're still fined $5, but go vote. Close the machine with 64 aye votes, 1 no vote, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The first report of the first conference committee on Senate Bill 88 is adopted. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 88 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of Senate Bill 88 as amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Landgraf, Lee, and Lee. Close the machine with 45 aye votes, 20 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate Bill 88, as amended, is repassed. Go, sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1298.
House Bill 1298, Representatives Hamner and Buckner, also Senators Kerr and Stedman, concerning the financing of public schools and in connection with making and reducing appropriations.
Madam Majority Leader. Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the first report of the first conference committee for House Bill 1298.
Please explain what the conference committee report did, Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with your permission, I'll do an overview of what the conference committee did and then help you understand how that fits in the whole package of House Bill 1292, the Student Success Act, and the School Finance Bill, if that's all right with the Speaker.
That sounds good, Representative Hamner.
All right, so in the conference committee, I want to thank Representatives Buckner and Murray for being there with me representing the House interests in the discussion. The Senate had increased the kindergarten allocation from its current level of 0.58 to 0.6. That cost $10 million. And I should have started with I know that many of us have a huge commitment to funding kindergarten at a full level. But as we started this conversation this year, and it's been quite the journey starting before the session began and culminating today on our last day of session, we started with kindergarten funding on the table, and we heard loudly and clearly from the districts that they didn't want us to tell them how to spend the dollars that we were investing back in our schools. And that is how we ended up with our investment in buying down the negative factor. But the whole purpose of the conference committee convening and the ability to go beyond the scope of differences between the House and the Senate, is that it's our responsibility to make sure that we have a sustainable amount of funding in the state education fund and in the general fund into the future so that we aren't investing in K-12 education this year and then have to make cuts in the near future. So we did in the conference committee reduce the kindergarten allocation, unfortunately, back to its current level of 0.58. We did make slight reductions in the increases to the READ Act by $2 million, the Counselor Corps Senate Bill 150 by $2 million, and our ELL program investment by $3 million. On the positive side, we were able to transfer $30 million from the state public school fund in kind of a refinance to be able to invest more into K-12 so that we didn't have to make further reductions in the total package. There were also some technical changes made to the bill to harmonize language in statute between House Bill 1292 and House Bill 1298 to harmonize effective dates of when the aspects of the bills go into effect. There was also an amendment to allow charter schools to use their assistance fund on a continuous appropriation format. And also there were some minor changes into the appropriations language. So that's really what the conference committee did. How this fits in the whole package of the school finance picture for next year for our schools. First of all, we were able to, between both bills, House Bill 1292 and 1298, achieve our statutory increase in per pupil funding of inflation. And that will end up with $187 more per pupil statewide. And in addition to what was required by state law in current statute, we were able to invest $110 million in buying down the negative factor, $18 million in our READ Act, which helps us support our students in kindergarten through third grade who are struggling and learning how to read. We have been able to allocate $13 million in charter school facilities, $17 million to provide 5,000 more e-care slots, which allows more children to participate in, more at-risk children to participate in our preschool and kindergarten programs statewide. $3 million in increased transparency, $27.5 million in our ELL program, $2 million to our BOCES to help our rural school districts and support our BOCES program. And through the bills, we were able to allocate up to $40 million in marijuana excise tax to the BEST program, 12.5% of those resources going to charter school facilities. So at the end of the day, between these two bills and the great work that we did, and there are many people to thank for this great work, and I'll do that in just a second, but the total package shows an increase on average of $369 per pupil, Remember, the state requirement through statute was $187 per pupil. Increasing on average our state per pupil funding in Colorado is $7,021. So I think this is something we can all be proud of. I do want to thank Representative Murray for co-sponsoring the Student Success Act with me. I really couldn't have done this without her support through the whole process. Also, as you know, Representatives Buckner and Navarro were very actively involved in the ELL aspect of the bill, and Representative Wilson very actively involved in the transparency language. And who else did I want to thank with that? Representative Szabo for her commitment to the charter school piece. So with that, I ask for your support on the first report of the first conference committee on House Bill 1298.
Representative Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 6 years, I think this was the only conference committee that I've participated in. So it's affectionately called the haircut committee, that we did a lot of cutting, but also left in place the full negative factor buy down that we had originally proposed. So on the conference committee report, I urge a very strong aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before the House is the adoption of the first conference committee report. The first report of the first conference committee on House Bill 1298. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives Del Grosso. Close the machine with 62 aye votes, 3 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The first report of the first conference committee on House Bill 1298 is adopted. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1298 as amended.
Representative Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My last time at the well, I think, on a bill at any rate. The process for this School Finance Act and School Success Act has been totally amazing, and I know we've talked about that a lot. I think the result that we have achieved has been a really good one. I think on both sides of the aisle, there's something for us to love and something for us to hate. But I think that that's the nature of the split that we have between our two parties. And I would hope that you would consider an aye vote on school finance. Thanks.
Representative Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, school finance is such a critical factor to the state of Colorado, including parents, teachers, and students from American Academy and Parker. And if that's them leaving the chamber, let's all wave goodbye.
Representative Holbert, very well done. That'll be nice today, $2. So you're moving to the Senate. Why should I give you be nice? We'll keep it $2. Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of House Bill 1298 as amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Conti, Gardner, Priola, Szabo, and Stevens. Close the machine with 44 aye votes, 21 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate House Bill 1298 as amended is repassed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Members, this has been an interesting year on education, funding especially, and there's a lot of people to thank, but I really want us all to thank both Representatives Hamner and Representative Murray for all their leadership on this issue. Thank you, members. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 50.
Senate Bill 50 by Senator Aguilar, also Representative Moreno, concerning financial assistance in Colorado hospitals in connection with making and reducing appropriations.
Representative Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House adopt the first report of the first conference committee on Senate Bill 50.
Please explain what the conference committee did.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As promised, members, on page 5, line 24, we changed the word from shall to may. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Some? Any? Bueller? Seeing none, the question for the House is the adoption of the first report of the first conference committee on Senate Bill 50. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Conti, Humphrey, Pabon, Priola, and May. Or shall. Close the machine with 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House adopts the first report of the first conference committee on Senate Bill 50. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 50 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of Senate Bill 50 as amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Gardner, McNulty, Pabon, and Stevens. Close the machine with 40 aye votes, 25 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate House repasses Senate Bill 50 as amended. Go sponsors. Close the machine. Madam Majority Leader.
I know, but we
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House proceed out of order for consideration of adherence.
Seeing no objection, the House proceed out of order for consideration of adherence. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 192.
Senate Bill 192 by Senator Hodge, also Representatives Becker and Wright, concerning the regulation of facilities licensed with regard to classified radioactive materials and in connection with making appropriation.
Representative Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the House
Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, darn it. That the House recede from to the amendments to Senate amendments on Senate Bill 192.
Please explain why we should actually recede from our position and just let the Senate control this bill.
Obviously, it would be our preference to remain with the House version, but we didn't see that there was time or ability to come to a compromise in a conference committee.
Representative Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move a substitute motion that the House repeal the Senate.
I so wish that motion was in order, but it's not.
I withdraw my motion.
Any further discussion? Representative Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the House for all the conversations that we had on this bill. Had the Senate version stayed in the House, I don't believe there would have been any objections to it. Members, we heard a lot of discussion, and sometimes we let fear and emotion get in the way of things. But the fact is, had we continued with the House versions, we would have been in violation of the NRC and the agreement the state of Colorado has with Colorado Department of Health. I don't believe there's anybody in this room that wants contaminated water. I believe the Senate version takes care of that problem. So I appreciate all the conversations. sometimes a little bit of heated emotion involved in this, but at the end of the day, I believe that we have done the right thing in receding to the Senate version. I, for one, will be supporting that.
Representative Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too support this motion. And I want to thank Representative Coram for, again, his debate. I was happy to support that. Yesterday during our caucus lunch, Representative Coram's wife, Diane, came over and grabbed me and with tears in her eyes expressed the outpouring of support for this version of this bill that came from constituents in western Colorado. Please do not consider this a defeat, that the Senate somehow got an upper hand. This is the outcome that western Colorado was asking for and certainly asked for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is to recede from the House position on Senate Bill 192. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine with 60 aye votes, 5 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House recedes from its position on Senate Bill 192. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House approve that we repass Senate Bill 192 as amended by the Senate.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is to repass Senate Bill 192 as amended by the Senate. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Buckner and Giroux. Close the machine with 63 aye votes, 2 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate Bill 192 as amended is repassed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 182.
Senate Bill 182 by Senator Hodge, also Representative Peniston, concerning procedures governing discussions by boards of education of school districts while meeting in executive session.
Representative Peniston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I move that the House recede from its position to the Senate position on Senate Bill 182.
Please explain why.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's stunning to me with all the lawyers they have over there that they seem to think the judicial system moves faster than we do. So they insist on the 90 days versus the 24 months that we ask for. But considering the total loss of the bill without this, I ask for you to agree to recede.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question for the House is to recede on our position on Senate Bill 182. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative McNulty and Swam. Close the machine. With 55 aye votes, 10 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, the House recedes from its position on Senate Bill 182. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 182 as amended by the Senate.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of Senate Bill 182 as amended by the Senate. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Lee and Pabon. Close the machine with 37 aye votes, 28 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. Senate Bill 182 is repassed as amended by the Senate. Co-sponsors.
Okay, well, let's just do some, we can just do Senate amendments until.
Let's go to Senate amendments on House bills. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House proceed out of order for consideration of Senate amendments to House bills.
Seeing no objection, the House will proceed out of order for consideration of Senate amendments to House bills. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of the House Bill 1343.
House Bill 1343, Representatives Singer and Wright, also Senator Talk Tribe, concerning workers' compensation coverage for post-traumatic stress disorder for peace officers.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I move that the House concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1343.
Please explain what they did.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as we almost hate the Senate as much as we hate safety clauses, and so they added one of those. And the reason is that we wanted to get this task force started right away. As people may remember, this bill was changed from a workers' compensation bill to simply a study on post-traumatic stress disorder in the law enforcement profession. And they need to get started a little sooner, so they decided to do a safety clause. And I'd rather not have to deal with them more than I have to, so the Senate more than I have to, so I ask that we concur.
Representative Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I agree with Representative Singer. As much as I dislike studies, this is an important topic that we continue to discuss in the interim so we can come up with a solution in the next session, so I would ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is to concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1343. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representative Priola and Waller. Close the machine with 47 aye votes, 18 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House concurs in Senate amendment to House Bill 1343. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for repassage of House Bill 1343 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of House Bill 1343 is amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives Conti, Hollinghorst, McLaughlin, Wright, and Swam. Close the machine with 42 aye votes, 23 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House repasses House Bill 1343 as amended. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1360.
House Bill 1360, Representative Young, also Senator Aguilar, concerning the continuation of the regulation of home care agencies by the Department of Public Health and Environment in connection with implementing the recommendations of the 2013 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies as modified by the General Assembly, making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader. Representative Young. I'm sorry.
I need to be shorter than I am? All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1360.
Please explain why.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, when the Sunset Review came through the House, we had several amendments, and our very able drafter, Christy Chase, picked up a few technical amendments that needed to be done in the Senate, and those are good amendments. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is to concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1360. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives Gardner, May, Priola, and Schaefer. Close the machine with 53 aye votes, 12 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 1360. Now, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure serving with you.
And also with you.
I move for repassage of House Bill 1360 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of House Bill 1360 as amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives Dorr and Sonnenberg. Close the machine with 51 aye votes, 14 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House repasses House Bill 1360 as amended. Co-sponsors. close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of the House Bill 1366.
House Bill 1366 by Representative Singer and McNulty, also Senators Johnston and King, concerning reasonable restrictions on the sale of edible retail marijuana products.
Representative McNulty.
Well, you've already done it once, so why don't you just go ahead and do it so I don't have to dirty my hands?
This sounds like everything we do.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You guys already been starting eating those edibles?
And we're chewing it over. We're chewing it over. Almost as well as the Senate chewed over this bill. But with that, Mr. Speaker and Mr. Former Speaker, I move that the House concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1366.
Please explain why.
Well, Mr. Speaker, like I said, while the Senate thoroughly chewed over this issue while they were hashing out the discussion relating to, I'm just racking up the fines, I know. This is all going to a good cause, but
Oiling the edges.
Exactly. Well, while they could see the light on concentrates, they couldn't see the light on edibles, and so what they're doing during the rulemaking process with edibles is running a concurrent study, and they also changed the stamp shape, color, or otherwise demarked to just a simple, readily recognizable as a marijuana product, and with those two changes, I figured it's better not to try our luck with them again.
Representative McNulty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, this bill does substantially the same thing that it did when it left this chamber. The Senate just used different words to describe what our intent is. These things have to be visually recognizable, right? You're not going to have a young child be able to recognize these things unless it's by sight. And so that is our direction. That's where our intent is for the Department of Revenue to go with this rulemaking. And I believe that they are going to head in that direction. The concurrent study, I think, is just doing something that is putting in law something that the Department of Revenue had already intended to do, and we certainly have no problem with that. So as difficult as it is for me to ask you to vote to concur with the Senate, for the sake of this bill and for the sake of our kids and for the sake of Representative Singer's sanity, I'm asking for an aye vote.
Representative Waller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And given Representative Singer's comments, I believe this motion should go up in smoke.
That'll be $2, Representative Waller. Representative Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I really appreciate Representative Singer and McNulty working together on this. It's important that we protect our kids from the edible products, make them distinct from non-medicated products, because kids need to be protected. Kids like those from American Academy in Parker, Colorado.
Representative Holbert, this is your second time introducing them. This time they're here at least, so I'll just a total of $5 now. So 2 from before, 3 from now, you're set at 5.
4 more groups coming, though.
You're going to owe a lot of money. Representative Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I urge an aye vote on this amendment as a token of my appreciation for the sponsors for all their work.
Representative Gardner, do you actually have something real to say? Representative Gardner, getting your money out already.
I consider it, thank you, Mr. Speaker, I consider it restorative justice. And this is an important bill. I appreciate Representative Singer and Representative McNulty bringing the bill concerning the protection of our children and the sale of edible products, marijuana products. And I, like Representative Holbert, as I vote on these matters, think about my constituents, particularly those from Pinyon Valley Elementary, the 34th graders that are visiting us here this morning. And that is why I will be an aye vote, Mr. Speaker.
And Representative Gardner, since it's your last day, I will waive your fine. Representative Holbert, you're going to the Senate. That doesn't count. Seeing no further or real discussion, the question for the House is to concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1366. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine with 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 1366. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1366 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of House Bill 1366 is amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Moreno Stevens. Close the machine with 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House repasses House Bill 1366 as amended. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of the House Bill 1381.
House Bill 1381, Representative Fields, also Senator Todd, concerning adoption of school closure plans requirement for closing a low-performing public school.
Representative Fields, Madam Speaker pro tem.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request that we concur with the Senate amendments to House Bill 1381.
Please explain what the Senate did.
Basically, what the Senate did is they added specific language regarding a school closure plan for those who are performing low in our public schools. I ask for a yes vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is to concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1381. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine with 39 aye votes, 26 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 1381. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1381 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of House Bill 1381 as amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Singer. Close the machine with 30. Representative Pabon, how do you vote? Your machine's closed. Okay. With 38 aye votes, 27 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1381 is passed. Just for clear for the record, Representative Pabon was a yes on the bill. Co-sponsors.
Do you want to explain the revision? You get to explain it. I'm back. You want to make the motion to concur then? Yeah.
Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of the House Bill 1382.
House Bill 1382, Representatives Young and Wilson, also Senators Kerr and Roberts, concerning the delivery of online education within the public elementary and secondary education system in connection with making appropriation.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would recommend that we concur with the Senate.
Actually, you still got hit with that kind of.
I move that
You're going to move? Okay. Then explain what the useless body did. Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think members, you may recall that when this bill came through the House, it was pretty contentious, but as it left and went over to the Senate, actually all the parties began to work together, and a number of amendments were put on based on those collaborative conversations. The two big areas in the bill that were amended then in the Senate based on that work that was done in collaboration with all the partners and stakeholders was around the definitions, some changes to the definitions, and probably the biggest one is we had two different groups, a design group and a task force, and the Senate decided to collapse that into one task force and have them do both the certification of authorization study as well as the pilot project study. And so with that, I ask for your aye vote on the concurrence.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I might add that this is one of those bills that got the sponsors drugged through the streets and so forth and beat up, but in the end, the opponents came around, helped us, dusted us back off, and made it into a good study. And the most important part, they took out the 0.5 FTE, which just tickled me to death.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is to concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1382. Mr. Kohler, Please open the machine and members, please vote. Representatives Gardner, Kraft-Tharp, and Wilson. Close the machine with 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 1382. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1382 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of House Bill 1382 is amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Conti, Del Grosso, Sem Conti. Close the machine with 45 aye votes, 44 aye votes, 21 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House repasses House Bill 1382 as amended. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1384.
House Bill 1384 by Representatives Pedersen and McNulty, also Senators Ulibarri and Crowder, concerning rigor-based tuition assistance for students at post-secondary institutions and in connection with making appropriation.
Representative Pedersen. 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 Okay, fine. Representative McNulty.
Mr. Speaker, I will not let my final motion in front of this august body to be surrender to the state Senate. We shall fight together. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House adhere to the House position on House Bill 1384.
Sounds good. Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, while I empathize with his disdain for the Senate, I move a substitute motion to concur with the lower body's amendments to House Bill 1384.
Please, someone explain what we're doing here. Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Senate made an appropriation, and I ask for your support.
Representative McNulty.
Having not made the motion, I can ask you to support Representative Pedersen's motion.
Had a feeling that was coming. Seeing no discussion, the question before the House is to concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1384. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. And I just like the fact that Representative Pedersen just rolled Representative McNulty. Close the machine with 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 1384. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1384 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of House Bill 1384 as amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative McNulty, the Chief Clerk asked if your motion needed to be in the Journal. I assume you would like that in the Journal, of course. Yes. Bold. Representatives Conti, Kagan, Gardner, Pabon, Szabo, and Vigil. Close the machine with 62 aye votes, 3 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House repasses House Bill 1384 as amended. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1396.
House Bill 1396, Representative Ryden, also Senator King, concerning clarification of the authority of persons acting on behalf of the Department of Public Health and Environment to administer the medical marijuana registry.
Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we concur with the Senate amendments to House Bill 1396.
Please explain what the Senate did.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What the Senate did was further clarify information about the primary caregivers accessing the marijuana registry, and there was a question about whether that fit under the title, but it was ruled that it did. And so what it basically does is includes information regarding caregivers, and it clarifies that those caregivers in the registry may only grow the number of plants that are allowed by a lawful holder of a red card, and just, clarifies that information about the caregivers. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question for the House concurring Senate amendments to House Bill 1396. Mr. Cole will please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives Fisher, Lebsack, Lee, and Ryden. Close the machine. With 61 aye votes, 4 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, the House concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 1396. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1396 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of House Bill 1396 is amended. Mr. Cole, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives Lebsack and Pabon. Close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, the House repasses House Bill 1396 as amended. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Message from the body that wastes all of our time.
Mr. Speaker, the body that wastes all of our time has...
The remainder of the message from the body that wastes all our time reprinted in the journal. I think we have now more, after that, we have more consideration of Senate amendments. Or not yet? We can do conference committee report on 1180. Why don't we proceed out of order for that, Madam Majority Leader? Yeah. Conference committee reports. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House proceed out of order for conference committee report on House Bill 1180.
Seeing no objection, the House proceed out of order for conference committee reports on House Bill 1180. Representative Becker. Actually, sorry. Mr. Kohler, please, thank you. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1180.
House Bill 1180, Representative Becker, also Senator Talk Shop concerning sunset review of the regulation of efforts for taking wildlife by the Director of the Division of Professions and Occupations and in connection therewith implementing the recommendations contained in the Sunset Report provided by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
I really can't say anything to make fun of you, because by the end of the time I'm done with Speaker, maybe I'll get it right. Representative Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House adopt the first report of the first conference committee on House Bill 1180.
Sounds great. Why don't you tell us what the conference committee report does?
The conference committee worked on the language regarding one instance when an outfitter can lose his license, and that involved use of alcohol. And we wanted to clarify that they would only use it if they put their clients at risk, and only were using it while the time that they were actually at work, so not outside of the normal work time that they might be having fun. So we wanted to really tighten and narrow the language when an outfitter could be subject to discipline because of alcohol use.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. If you remember, we were going to concur, and then there was some concerns, and I think those concerns have been addressed. So I would ask for your yes vote for the conference committee.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before the House is to adopt the first report of the first conference committee on House Bill 1180. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives Landgraf, Priola, and Priola. Close the machine with 62 aye votes, 3 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House adopts the first report of the first conference committee on House Bill 1180. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1180 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House of the repassage of House Bill 1180 is amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Conti, Humphrey, Navarro, Peniston, McCann, and McLaughlin. Close the machine with 49 aye votes, 16 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House repasses House Bill 1180 as amended. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Message from the reviser.
We herewith transmit without comment.
Message from the reviser, print in the journal. The House will stand in a brief recess. The House will come back to order. Madam Majority Leader, let's move to consideration of Senate amendments on House bills for House Bill 1398 and House Bill 1001.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we proceed out of order for consideration of amendments to House bills for 1393 and
1398.
1398 and 1001.
Seeing no objection, the House proceed out of order for consideration of Senate amendments to House Bill 1001 and 1398. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of whichever bill you got first of the two.
House Bill 1001, Representative Singer, also Senator Nicholson, concerning the creation of property tax reimbursement for a taxpayer that owes property tax on property that has been destroyed by a natural cause in connection with making and reducing appropriations.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House reject Senate amendments to House Bill 1001 and that a conference committee be formed and allowed to go beyond the scope of Senate amendments.
Please explain why, Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I know we like to joke about the Senate, but what they truly did was an insult to disaster victims. What this bill would have done under the House version, which had Democratic and Republican support under this bill with Democratic and Republican amendments to put in transparency, would have simply allowed disaster victims in the fires, the floods, or anything going forward to work with their county assessors to allow that their property tax on destroyed property, property they cannot build on and for some people cannot even return to for years, if not at all, would have simply allowed the county assessor to work with the county treasurer to notify the state treasurer to make sure that those property taxes are not owed on those destroyed properties. Right now, under current law, what happens is assessors are allowed to reassess properties from the date of disaster to the end of the year. What the Senate amendments did is two things. One, it allowed, it backfilled what the counties are already able to do, backfilled those dollars, and then also applied this to business personal property tax from the date of disaster to the end of the calendar year. The problem goes beyond just my own personal objections, but now the assessors, the association is opposed to the Senate amendments because of the business personal property tax, which creates some administrative nightmares, actually. And so with that, I renew my motion to not concur, to go to conference committee, move beyond the scope, and do what's right for the victims here. The people that actually came down and testified in support of a bill that would help make sure that they could get at least something back for their properties. FEMA doesn't make them whole. FEMA helps out with up to $32,000. Flood insurance, if you had it, doesn't make people whole. Most people get about a quarter of the value of their home. That doesn't rebuild a house. Property taxes isn't going to rebuild this either, but at the very least we can do what they've done in other states and at least forgive their property taxes for that year. And with that, I renew my motion to reject Senate amendments, form a conference committee, and let's see if we can work something out, folks.
Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I didn't hear it in that, and maybe you said it. I would like to know specifically what you want to do by going beyond the scope of the Senate amendments and what you would like to change.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Representative Sonnenberg, and that's a fair question. I don't simply want to, if we give them the bill that we passed here in the House on a bipartisan basis, I don't believe that will have the votes to pass. But if we can go beyond the scope and look at potentially moving to an income tax credit where we do something that's means tested, so if someone has $1 million home and they're a millionaire, maybe in that sort of situation, maybe they don't qualify for a tax credit the same way that someone who earns $40,000 a year and has a $200,000 house. One other option would to limit the number of people who would be able to access this through other means by looking at going beyond destroyed property into other types of property like the FEMA 404 buyout program. And so I want to make sure all options are on the table, that we have that robust discussion. And with that, I hope that answers your question, Representative Sonnenberg.
Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Singer, thank you for explaining that, and let me just tell you that scares the hell out of me. This was the very first bill that was introduced, and now, the last day in the waning hours, we want to do a rewrite by going through or negotiating without testimony, without people weighing in. I'm not going to make a substitute motion. What I am going to do is ask you to reject his motion to go beyond the scope, for a create a committee and go beyond the scope. And if we stop that, then let's do conference committee, if he'd like to do that, to deal with those Senate amendments, take it back to the House, however he thinks is appropriate to do it in that conference committee. But ladies and gentlemen, going beyond the scope at this late hour on the first bill that was introduced in this session, I think is an inappropriate thing to do with our time. Ask for a no vote on the motion.
Representative Gardner, or is there any Representative Priola?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I do remember hearing this in finance many, many months ago. It's my recollection that counties can already do this. The bill, I'm not sure if this is exactly how it is now, but when we saw it in the House, basically it was a backfill bill to counties for doing this. And in my opinion, I think the numbers worked out, so you're actually giving them a tax credit for the months that they were living in the house before the disaster. I agree with Representative Sonnenberg. Here in the 11th hour and 50th minute, we do not need to be going to conference committee and going beyond the scope. So I ask for a no vote.
Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It has been a privilege and an honor to serve with you.
It's been with you as well.
Members, I share the concern that Representative Sonnenberg and Representative Priola raised, but and I wish this bill had been done a long time ago. It is House Bill 1001, and it would have been my hope that it was done a long time ago. The fact is, for those of you who, like I, represent people in El Paso County and other counties that had serious fire damage, this tax credit for property destroyed by natural cause is important. And I don't want to let it go. If I thought we could do that within the scope, that would be fine. But I worry that here we are in the last day, and I don't like that. I venture that Representative Singer likes it less than perhaps we do. He had House Bill 1001, and I suspect he thought House Bill 1001 would have been done on about April 1, if not a lot earlier. So, members, I'm going to ask for your support on this because there are people in Colorado who have suffered serious losses. We have a conference committee. That's what it's for. If we lose this bill, we will have lost the opportunity to assist people in Colorado who have lost homes and other property, serious financial consequences, and I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I think what I'll do here, so we don't muddy the issue more than we have to, I'm going to withdraw my motion for going beyond the scope right now and just move that we not concur with Senate amendments and then make a motion following after that regarding the scope.
Seeing no further discussion, so just to clarify for everyone, the motion on the table right now is only to reject and not concur in Senate amendments and ask a conference committee be formed. There is not a request yet for beyond the scope, but that may be, that's up to Representative Singer on that. Is there for Representative Priola?
Mr. Speaker, I make a substitute motion that we concur with Senate amendments because my understanding of what the Senate amendments do actually prorate 1001 so that we will not be backfilling the counties for houses that people lived in the early part of the year when the house was taken out by a flood in the late part of the year. So quite honestly, I think the amendments and the work that the Senate did do improve the bill, although I don't agree with the bill.
Representative McNulty.
Thank you. Amy's got her. We're good.
You sure?
I think. Yeah, okay.
She has a son. She's raised him, so I think.
And Nick turned out okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I ask that you reject this motion. Send it to a conference committee. Allow them to work it out. This is a big deal. People were truly and honestly harmed. The devastation was wide. It was dramatic. It is not a time to adhere to the House position. It's really not time for the Senate to adhere to their position. This is the last opportunity. So if we go down this road, then the bill is likely lost. It's not a time to play chicken. Send it to a conference committee. Let them have the time to work it out, and then we'll get on with the business of helping these people restore their lives.
Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and quite frankly, I agree. There's no harm in forming a conference committee and having the discussion. We can have this discussion then later on after we have the conference committee, but I would urge a yes or a no vote on the substitute motion and then a yes vote on creating a conference committee.
Representative Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I understand. I withdraw my substitute motion.
Okay, we are back to the underlying motion to not concur and ask a conference committee to be formed. Is there any further discussion? Representative Sane.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate Representative Singer bringing this bill forward. We had some objection from my county. Our Weld County assessor and treasurer, they already prorate from the day of disaster already. We can already do this. We can already do this. And so I would say the Senate amendments are good. So I would urge for a no vote on not to concur. Thank you.
Representative Singer.
Thank you. Once again, I apologize for the confusion that I started on day one here, and now we're on day 120. But I renew my motion for not concurring. Representative Sane is correct that counties can already forgive this from the date of the disaster to the end of the year. But the difference is with the Senate amendments, the state would be footing the bill. That's not what the bill did. That's not what people testified on. Let's give this one more shot. Let's not concur today, right now, and come back later on after the conference committee and make this a better bill.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is to not concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1001 and ask a conference committee be formed. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Stevens. Close the machine with 58 aye votes, 7 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House does not concur in Senate amendment to House Bill 1001 and asks a conference committee be formed. Representative Singer, are we going to still on this conference committee, or are we going to go to the next one? Sure, hold on. The conferees on House Bill 1001, Representative Singer, Chair, Representative May, and Gardner, members. Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with that, I understand the concerns about going beyond the scope, and so let's see what we can do in conference committee without going beyond the scope, and if we need to come back again, then well, we'll be here all day. And with that, I move for that.
So no move for anything.
I don't move for anything.
Okay. So
Yes.
members, just so, because we haven't done many conference committees, the conference committee will meet if they need to go beyond the scope to solve the problem. They can always come with whatever they decide and come and ask for beyond the scope if that's the decision. And I think that probably makes some people feel more comfortable knowing exactly what the vote is to give permission to go beyond the scope. So with that, we'll move to the next bill, House Bill 1398. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1398.
House Bill 1398, Representative Singer, also Senator Steven and Ballmer, concerning the provision of financial services to licensed marijuana businesses in connection with making an appropriation.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hopefully this is a little easier, but we can still clap here. I move that the House reject Senate amendments that we not concur, and that a conference committee be formed.
Representative Singer, you're on a roll today. Please explain why we should reject the Senate.
Well, nothing like being on a roll with marijuana. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This was a carefully crafted bill that incorporated members of the different various factions of the banking community, including the Independent Bankers Colorado Banking Association and credit unions. At the end of the day, there was there were some really good Senate amendments, and there were some concerning Senate amendments. One of the Senate amendments on there would allow industrial hemp to qualify within the cooperatives. And while, frankly, I thought that was a good idea, the Bankers Association had some other concerns about that, in the sense that they actually believe that industrial hemp can already utilize traditional banking services. And this bill was really providing a service for people who cannot otherwise use traditional banking services. So I'd like to sit down in conference committee, see if we can come out with, once again, a better product. Nothing like the last day to be on 2 conference committees for me. And with that, I renew my motion to not concur with Senate amendments and form a conference committee.
Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I indeed am supportive of a conference committee, but do you realize the Representative Singer has the first bill and the last bill of this session, and he's what's holding us up from going home? I asked for a conference committee,
Representative Singer, to explain yourself.
I love you guys. I don't want to leave. Don't make me go. I love my constituents too, but no. I thank you, Representative Sonnenberg, for that, recognizing that these are good bookends, and let's end on a high note, folks.
Madam Assistant Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Singer, I noticed that in the Senate they changed the definition of members. Would you please explain to me what they changed it to and what that means? I'm a little concerned that everybody maybe could be a member.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Madam Assistant Minority Leader. My understanding, and this is part of the reason I wanted to go to a conference committee, is there were some changes in definitions of members. The idea here, and some of these were a little bit more consensus agreements, is there are businesses other than marijuana dispensaries that aren't able to receive traditional banking services. And for example, those that supply goods and services directly to marijuana dispensaries. And so the concept here is that they wanted to expand that definition, and those concerns had not, rejection of those concerns had not been brought up by the banking community, with the exception of industrial hemp. So my hope is to have that conversation in conference committee and make sure that we're dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's and making sure that we move forward. And I'll bring those comments back to the conference committee and take it from there.
Madam Assistant Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Singer, another concern I do have is, you know, we received this extensive bill in committee less than 24 hours before we had to actually know what it is. And my understanding from testimony in committee that this was kind of a letter to Santa Claus type of thing, that we need to alert the feds that here in Colorado we're concerned about this, and, you know, concerned about what y'all were saying people are carrying around king super bags full of money, and that was dangerous and everything, and that we were just going to send a message to the federal government to say, hey, we need to do something about it. Here's our plan, and can you please act on this? And now the more and more I hear about it, and as it's going further and further through committee, and what I hear on the news is that I'm concerned that this is really going to open up in the next few months. That's what the talk is, more than just sending a message to the federal government that something needs to be done. Where are we at on that? Did something change since, you know, the 14 hours after the bill was introduced? Is something going to open up in the next month that is going to actually do this, which would violate, you know, the banking regulations and that type of thing? Where are we at with this?
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, hopefully we'll be at a conference committee, but you know, this came out of the Business Committee 92, Representative Szabo, and where we're at with this is that this is not a letter to the federal government. This is creating a plan that would create co-ops that would then petition to the Federal Reserve for a plan, or not for a plan, but for a cooperative. If the Federal Reserve doesn't operate in hypotheticals. They need a specific plan, and then on top of that plan, they need the structure and the entity to actually come and petition them. What this does is allows that entity to exist and work under the regulation of the state government. So without this bill, we can't even start the conversation. We don't even know where we're going. If for some reason Santa Claus decides to bestow its blessing on our commercial banks and credit unions between now and next session, or any other time after this bill passes, this bill goes away. And ultimately, if cooperatives aren't formed, it says in the bill that by 2017, if we can't even form a cooperative, we can't even get the businesses together, and the businesses are very interested in this as we speak. But if for some reason they back out, once again, by 2017, this bill goes away. So I believe that this is well thought out, but we can do a little bit better of a job. There was a last-minute amendment that happened in the Senate, and I'd like some time to have that conversation with them about what that does before we pass the bill.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question for the House is to not concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1398 and ask a conference committee be formed. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Buck and close the machine with 50 aye votes, 51 aye votes, 14 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The House does not concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1398 and ask the conference committee be formed. Conference committee, Representative Singer, Chair, Representative Pabon, and/or members. We're going to briefly go into announcements and introductions. Representative Holbert.
Why, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for saving me some pocket change here and introducing yet another group from American Academy, one of the highest performing schools in the state in Parker, Colorado. Let's give them a warm welcome.
Now, members, we are going to move, just so everyone knows, we are going to do consideration of memorials. We have 2 memorials on the calendar. We'll do those. We will break for lunch. We will come back at 1:30. We will do tributes to members who are not returning. We will do resolutions, and we will do conference committee reports this afternoon. So, Madam Majority Leader. Oh, you want to do brief recess? Yeah, the House will stand in a brief recess. The House will come back to order. Members, just so you know, the calendar has a mistake on the titles. So what is up here, Senate Joint Memorial 5 and Senate Joint Memorial 6 are the ones we are going to do. Madam Majority Leader, do you want to move to proceed out of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House proceed out of order for consideration of memorials SJM 005 and SJM 006.
Seeing no objection, the House proceed out of order for consideration Senate Joint Memorial 5 and Senate Joint Memorial 6. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Joint Memorial 5.
Senate Joint Memorial 5 by Senator Crowder, also Representative Hollinghorst, concerning memorializing Congress to enact legislation allowing certain non-physician healthcare professionals to certify and amend home health plans of care.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And before I move this, I would just like to say that we have a wonderful staff up here who do a great job, and I do believe that this is the first mistake they've made on the calendar in the entire year, and I think that is pretty darn good. So, yay.
Representative Hollinghorst.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the for the adoption of SJM 005, and I don't need it read at length.
Thank you. Please continue, Madam Majority Leader.
Okay, this House or actually it's a Senate joint memorial that we're agreeing to, actually asks Congress to enact existing bipartisan legislation that would allow nurse practitioners, certified nurse specialists, certified nurse midwives, and physician's assistants to certify and make changes to home health plans of care. And this is very important because these are the people that actually work with these plans and administer these plans, and it requires a change that would reflect in our national Medicaid and so forth. So I hope that you will join Senator Crowder and myself in supporting this important memorial that will go to Congress.
No, it'll be before that. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we can take a voice vote. Okay. Yes. Seeing none, is there any objection to taking a voice vote? Seeing none, we'll proceed in that manner. All those in favor of Senate Joint Memorial 5 say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Joint Memorial 5 is adopted. You want to open the machine for co-sponsors? Okay, let's open the machine for co-sponsors, Mr. Kohler.
Yes, you certainly can. Thank you very much. Now we have...
Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Joint Memorial 6.
Senate Joint Memorial 6 by Senator Lambert, also Representative Joshi, memorializing Congress to grant Colorado research institutions the authority to conduct medical clinical trials regarding marijuana's medical efficacy.
Representative Joshi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move SJM 14-006, and I don't need it to be read at length.
Thank you, Representative Joshi. Please explain what the memorial is.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, members, as you know, we have certain changes made in our Constitution with the Amendment 64, and we have problem particularly with our institutions that can do research in marijuana medical efficacy. But right now, the way it is, they are afraid to do that because of the federal laws. So what this memorial will do, it will ask Congress to grant our Colorado research institutions the authority so they can conduct some medical research. So hopefully that will help us clarify a lot of indications for marijuana use.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to taking a voice vote on Senate Joint Memorial 6? Seeing none, we'll proceed in that manner. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Joint Memorial 6 is adopted. Do you want to open the machine for co-sponsors? Mr. Kohler, my computer froze. Can you add me as a co-sponsor? Okay. Thank you. Close the machine. Members, just so we are clear, State Affairs will be meeting upon recess of the House. Conference committees on 1398 will meet at 1 p.m. Conference committee on 1001 will meet upon adjournment of the conference committee on 1398. There is one more conference committee that we are waiting for the Senate to reject House amendments on the Lower North Fork Fire Bill. And once that happens, we will figure out when the conference committee is that. So we will just recess. We will come back to the House at, let's just say, 2, so that conference committees can meet and have the time to do that. So the House will come back at 2. Are there any announcements or introductions? Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some of you have been asking about when you have to get out of your offices versus cleaning out this area today. Maryland will be sending out emails because you know there's going to be construction in the bullpens and different parts. So Maryland will be sending out emails announcing to everybody when you have to be out of your office so that the construction can take place this summer. Thank you.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, members. And as you can see on the calendar, we have a number of resolutions to get here through this afternoon. So I am asking all of you who are carrying resolutions to please arrange for those to be done in as brief a manner as possible, including not reading the resolutions at length if you feel that that's appropriate and you can do that. And I would like to have you keep the supporting speeches to a minimum if you also possibly can, just to make sure we can get through all of those today. Thank you.
Any further announcements or introductions? Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we want to make sure that all of us get a picture together before we finally adjourn today. So we're going to be meeting after we come back at 2 o'clock. We're going to all go outside on the west steps outside of the Capitol and take a picture together.
Representative McCann, anything? Seeing no further announcements, have a good lunch. We will see you back on the floor. There will be a call to the House at 2 p.m. today. The House will stand in recess until sometime when we get some things more to read across the desk.